Welcome to Next UK. When you think war is far away, remember, the threat may be closer than you imagine. Ladies and gentlemen, the situation in the Strait of Hormuz and the Chagos Islands is becoming more dangerous by the day. Iran has revealed previously undisclosed missile capabilities, with some sources claiming its missiles could even reach London. This isn't just news about the Middle East, it's a direct threat to the security of Britain and its bases in the region. Today, we'll break down how Iran's closure of the strait has impacted global oil supplies, the real threat facing British forces, and what experts are saying about the timing of a potential response. Brace yourselves, some of the facts we'll reveal may shock you.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Next UK, your go-to for real stories and sharp analysis.
Expose something critical. Before, the Iranian regime only admitted that they could indeed only get 2,000 kilometres before their missile range would be inadequate. Now we know that that number is double, and Israeli sources are saying tonight that Iran could indeed even hit London. That is why so many of us are saying this is our war. The Iranians clearly have been lying to the world about their ballistic missile capabilities, which makes this even more critical for Britain's security and defence. Let's speak to my guest now, Simon Diggins, who's come down the line. He's a defence analyst and a former British Army officer. Simon, thank you very much for joining me this evening. How worried should we be about Iran's capabilities to strike Britain from its base in Tehran?
Alex, good evening to you. I think it is clearly a major threat. I suspect they don't have too many missiles who are capable of doing that. But let's also be honest, that the bases we have got on Cyprus are also sovereign British territory. So Iran represents a threat to us. I think the really important thing about this is that the capabilities, the declared capabilities of Iran and its actual capabilities are so different. And I think that reads across to the discussion, the debate about whether or not Iran has nuclear weapons or the near potential to have nuclear weapons. I think that also changes the dynamic about what's going on. Lots of people still trying to say they haven't developed nuclear weapons. I point to the evidence. The evidence is they have some 400 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60%. There's no reason to do that if all you're doing is developing a civil nuclear power program. That requires about 5 or 6% enriched uranium, so 12 times the enrichment required for a civil nuclear affairs program. So it seems to me that we've now seen that they have a capability which was undeclared, and I think that also, as I said, will be part of the development or the capability to put in a nuclear weapon there as well. So I think it points to the same argument. This is a really dangerous regime that lies, naturally lies, if you like, and then so we should not trust it, and indeed we should be countering it as fast as we can be.
Brief question for you here. We've seen the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, today essentially admits that we are under attack by these missiles. But again, we are constantly continuing this message of not engaging in an offensive war here, only a defensive one. At what point in time do we need to start engaging in an offensive war in order to protect our own bases and our own troops?
I think that time has long since passed. And Kevin Badenoch put it rather well 2 weeks ago. She said, why are we trying to block the archers and their arrows when we should be going after the archer? And I think that's exactly the point. Well, we've now had that. We've had an attack on Akrotiri, a British sovereign base area. But we've now had a direct attack on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean using a weapon system which we didn't even know they had. I mean, at some point you have to say, enough is enough. I think that point has long since been passed. And I'm staggered, surprised, and frankly just disappointed that our government can't seem to see that.
The question now pertains, do we wait until a British members of our armed forces are killed before we engage and fire back at Iran, or do we just sit on our hands and do nothing while we're being shot at?
Well, we are engaged, and we're engaged in a defensive stance because we're not at war with Iran.
But a defensive stance would mean you would respond when you're attacked.
And the articles of NATO are very clear on this. Article 5 is if a NATO nation is attacked in Europe or in America, which it hasn't been. So he's right. And Starmer
is not a NATO war. This is not a NATO war.
Starmer is in the same place as all the other world leaders, apart from Trump and Israel, and also British public opinion appears to be behind Starmer. Love him or loathe him on all the other issues. On this, he seems to be both getting it right from a historical point of view, as India points out, but also where the public is in right now. So I think it's right to be cautious about this war, not least for all the things we know. There's no clear war aims. The Ayatollah that's in position now is much more hardline than the one that they assassinated. The Iranians are now...
I don't know how you can be more hardline.
Well, he is. He's far... Well, he's not only more hardline, but they've also... He's more hardline, and also they've killed his father, his mother, his wife and his son. So he's not going to be very well disposed to the West, is he?
Well, you're right, Paul, but for a very long time they've been goading this war. I mean, his father was constantly saying, we can't wait to have a glorious war with Israel, America and the West. I mean, it's not like they shouldn't have expected it. I mean,
they've got it, and I hope that we have regime change. I hope that they brought down, but there's no sign of that. Where is that happening?
Layla, my concern is that many people say this is not our war. This IRGC operates here on British soil. We've seen potential allegations in the news just in the last 24, 48 hours about our nuclear bases, which terrified me. We've also seen terror attacks attempted here by Iranian operatives. At what point are we going to get tough? At what point are we going to get tough and say this is our war, actually? Because I believe it is.
Well, number one, I think the number one thing we must do is prescribe the IRGC as a terrorist organisation. It is mad that we haven't. Europe has done it, and I don't know why we're lagging behind. But the thing is, I don't think we're ready, Alex. I don't think we have the military capability. You know, I think I was reading that we have, we can detect these missiles, the ballistic missiles, if they come towards us. And I think we use a Type 45 destroyer. I've written it here. We only have 6 of them, and I don't know if they're ready. You know, we saw how long it took to get to Cyprus. And we will rely on the USA. But I think the number one thing we have to do is be ready for any military action. And we're not. We don't have the capability. So I think right now, let's prescribe the IRGC first so we protect, we keep enemies off our land.